Introduced last year during the War for Cybertron trilogy's last chapter, Kingdom, Core Class was brought into the line as a way to work in smaller characters and to introduce a smaller G1 scale to work with that year's Titan class, which was the Arc. Now, it makes sense for Legacy to continue that trend, as it clearly sold, besides Dracodon. I'm sorry, I thought you were cool though. And the fact that we are doing multiverse crap for the next couple years, it can help bring in characters that haven't gotten releases in a long time. So when Studio Series announced that they were also looking to include Core Class for their line, I'm sure myself and a few others thought of tons of characters they could bring into the line. Frenzy, both Ravages, no, the one from Grindor doesn't count, that thing is a joke. Laserbeak, Pink Bumblebee, that Mountain Dew vending machine, and the poor excuse of that advertisement for Oreo. But when they finally announced the first two core figures, which were shown in an Instagram post and a Prime vs. Prime video, we got a neat looking Ravage which can be translated into Soundwave DLC expansion pack, but Shockwave? Shockwave. I'm pretty sure most people had the same thought as I was, which was, why did they make Shockwave so small? Hello everyone, my name is Omega the Rio, or Omega, you want to keep it short and simple, and today we're going to be taking a glance at Studio Series' most weirdest decision, and that would be the Core Class Bumblebee movie Shockwave. First impressions of this figure is about as much as you expect from a Core Class, which means that there isn't a lot going on in that tiny Cyclops head of his, but taking a second look, there's definitely something going on here. Starting off with paint and details, he's definitely basic in terms of paint with purples, blacks, and grays, but don't let that take away from his design because he definitely has some charm to it. Bumblebee movie designs in general are pretty to look at, and Studio Series really helps that. This doesn't change with Shockwave, he looks like he fits in perfectly with the rest of the designs, until you realize he's 1/3 the size of his comrades. I'm still unaware as to why they made him so small. If anybody knows why, could you let a friend know? Thanks. Overall, paint and details are fine, nothing too crazy and nothing too basic. It's between a Cyberverse Warrior class toy and a downscaled Siege toy, which simplified down again means he's just right in the middle of being complicated. Now speaking of complicated, his articulation. If you thought he was a highly articulated toy, you'd be dead wrong. What are you thinking? He's definitely basic in terms of movement, and it gets worse when we talk about his accessory, but we're getting too ahead of ourselves. Basic rotation for the head does seem a little underwhelming. Why can't they put a ball joint? But it's fine. It doesn't need much articulation anyways. Moving on to the arms with actual ball joints this time, it doesn't get any more impressive than this. He's basic for the main line in terms of acrobatics, and for $10, you better not be complaining about this, you self-righteous dickhead. Articulation overall is fine. I mean, it gets the job done, but I'm not saying it's bad at all. It's what we've come to expect from Core Class overall, so he's fine. Now, moving on to accessories, we get one, and it's big-ass giant arm cannon. Now, is this considered parts forming, or are we just making exclusions now? It's definitely making up a big chunk of Shockwave, being longer than one of his arms. It's definitely large. And if you think I'm going to make a joke about dicks or overcompensating, or that's what she said, absolutely was going to, but looking back at the script, I realized it wouldn't flow as well, so whatever. I guess it's fine. At least you can swap it out with a G1/Transformers Prime look, or give him Bayverse inspiration. It just tabs on with a little peg and fits on like that. Yeah, it's a little much, but Shockwave's always had that kind of arm. Overall, I could care less about the cannon, but hey look, it's painted, so at least they gave some care, right? Moving on with size comparisons with other Core Class figures, starting off with Kingdom Optimus, Kingdom Vertebrate, Kingdom Megatron, Kingdom Starscream, Kingdom Soundwave, and finally, Bumblebee Movie Studio Series Ravage. He fits in just right with your other Core Classes, just fine for now until Legacy comes out with their own G1 Core Class Shockwave, but for now, he's right here at home with the rest of my lads. Final thoughts on the robot mode is you don't have to be impressive to be fun, and Shockwave is definitely worth the $13 I threw at it. Overall, 7 out of 10. Transformation is simple yet unique until we bring up the fact that this is Bayverse and Prime's transformation smashed into one with G1 sprinkled on top. Which isn't bad, but it definitely is obvious that it's taking inspiration from it, with the shape of it being identical to both of those designs. I'm not going to say anything negative about this vehicle mode because it's kind of a fun tiny tank. Like Slammer and Warpath don't exist, but overall, this is a very pretty tank mode. Yes, it parts form by plugging into a hole at the back of the head, which explains my joke earlier. Wow, look at that, continuity. With his head being on a rotation, it does allow him to pull a full 360 around his entire head. And they even engineered a small hinge where the peg plugs into so he has more range up and down. One kind of sucky flaw is the lack of any real wheels on his alt mode, so you have him slide around. which, give it a couple years, the tank treads completely scuff off, but besides that, he's really enjoyable as a tiny little guy, and putting him next to all the core class figures shows off that, yeah, this skill is definitely working, and I can't see what else Legacy can put out next. Speaking of which, what is Legacy's first wave of core class? A Pretender from the 80s, interesting. Ooh, Skywarp. Where is Nullrays, though? And finally we have... No. Not you. Not again! Hey, you made it! Scripted videos. Yeah, this is the first time I'm using Google Docs for anything besides MLA format essays, so if you like this video and want to see more of it, consider subscribing and liking. I'm hoping for a sub goal of 150 before the end of this year, so we can hit that, right? I sure hope so. Anyways, consider commenting as well. That's all for this time. My name is Omega, and I will see you the next time I decide to upload. Thank you, and I see you all next time.